engaged citizens. It's been a long day. I appreciate your patience. My name is Grant Ranalli, and I'm an elementary school teacher in South Central Hamilton. I've also acted as co-chair of the Catholic School Board's Environmental Committee for the past decade, so I have been following the file fairly closely. Before I get into my presentation, I just want to say there's questions about disruption that could affect businesses negatively, and not to be cute, but the expression, you can't make an omelet without scrambling some eggs. But that's very trite, and it's disrespectful to businesses who put their heart and soul into their occupation. Sometimes it's a family business. Sometimes it's a lot more than heart and soul. It's usually a lot of money as well. So I think that we have to respect the concerns of business people. I think that when the LRT does open and there are a lot of people getting off at stops and passing by their stores, they'll realize that it really was a good thing. But we need to do everything in our power to help these businesses get through the transition, whether it's 2 years of construction in front of their store or 3 years. I don't think it's going to be 7 or 8. But we need to do whatever we can in our power to help alleviate the concerns of businesses through signage and other ways to help keep them open and viable. Instead of offering more facts on LRT, which I'm sure you've heard a lot of today, I'm going to tell you a little story. I was born in 1956, which puts me in the certain age category. And as a child, I used to take the HSR down to the YMCA to a program after school, and I really appreciated the freedom and mobility that I had, the ability to explore my environment. And in those days, parents weren't freaked out about letting their kids use public transit. And I wish those days would come back, because it's not so big and scary to go downtown. I got to venture into downtown Hamilton, the exciting metropolitan city, 1966, such as it was. It's come a long way. When I was in high school, same thing. I took the Gar Street bus down the hill and Main Street and King Street trolleys. But even back then, 47 years ago, there were still a lot of pass-bys. Trolley after trolley would go by during morning, and especially afternoon rush hour. So even back then, we had capacity issues to deal with, and we still have them today. And more importantly, it underpins, my whole presentation is underpinned by the fact that it offers mobility. So an efficient, attractive transportation system offers the kind of mobility that we need. Young people who don't drive cars, who are too young to drive, millennials who no longer think cars are that important to own. We need to offer something to them. And without that system, I wouldn't have the mobility as a child to get around to downtown, to the library or the galleries, the markets, whatever, or to school. Think of how many schools that private, Catholic, and public schools, secondary schools, can benefit from using LRT transportation and all the feeder bus routes that will service that. That's a lot of people, a lot of cars off the road, and those are also students. We're talking about McMaster, Redeemer, Mohawk College, all who support the LRT project, and for good reasons. These students no longer have to purchase, finance, insure, fuel, and repair these automobiles. They no longer have to park them, so we don't need as many parking lots. Okay, and compound the reduction in air pollution, which has been mentioned by Dr. Lukasik. My own school, we did an air quality study with my students, and we found that the air shed around schools is ridiculously high because lines of cars are there idling, dropping off their kids. So if we can get kids more mobility and get to and from school, that's a huge investment. And I'm thinking of my own students in grade 6 right now that I teach. By the time they're in grade 11 or 12 graduating, they'll be cutting the ribbon on the LRT system. So if we want to be a city that is a great place to raise a child, can't we offer them more than lower order transit that we've been dealing with ever since fossil fuels were invented? It's also, if you look at the demographics, whatever's good for young kids is often very good for older people. I'm just turned 60, heading into the golden years, and I think of my parents, one who doesn't drive anymore and one who may not be driving soon. We need to address the needs of the elderly population, and they say that in order to remain healthy and viable, you need to be mobile and engaged and connected with your community. And what better way to do that than put in an efficient, comfortable transit system that accommodates wheelchairs and people who have trouble climbing upstairs.
Grant, just a moment. Sorry, your time is out, but if I could have a motion to extend, moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Appreciate it. So for young and old and everybody in between, really, cannot we not do more as the ambitious city that we once were? Why are we getting cold feet and getting timid in the face of challenges? Can't we face up to them? I think we can, and the time, it really should be a slam dunk when you think it was good back in the old days when people voted for it many times. Now with full funding, it really should be a slam dunk. But don't let misinformation or factoids or alternate facts lead you to a different conclusion. The pro side has presented a lot of information backed up by evidence, and that's what decisions should be made on, and not fear-mongering and what I call chicken littleism. So that's it. I think that we can't let this golden opportunity slip through our fingers. So you need to stand up. Councillors, if you have constituents that are fearful, you need to learn about the project, which you have done, and you need to educate them as to why you made a decision to go forward many times in the past. Stand up and stand by your guns and vote yes to this environmental assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. We have Councillor Whitehead. Oh, Grant. Sorry, Councillor Whitehead.
I got to catch a bus. Sorry.
Thanks. Thanks, Grant, for your very informative presentation. One of the key things for a comprehensive transit system is not one line, not one 11-kilometer line. It's about fulfilling the expectations, hopes, and desires of everybody in the community. And clearly, it's not affordable to put a train on every road or every arterial road or every service.
Correct.
Currently, we are committed to implementing the BLAST network. Currently, you mentioned schools. Currently, for example, there was a motion in front of us. I supported it for full service on Rymal to the employment lands out in Ancaster, which would service the Redeemer School, for example.
Yes.
That didn't get passed. So when we talk about a comprehensive transit system, it's not, and it doesn't stop with that 11-kilometer stretch. Would you agree with that comment?
Yes, I would, through you, Madam Chair. I agree that I fully support the BLAST network, and that was actually a page I skipped, but it's a comprehensive network. It's not a single line. People say it's a line going to nowhere. It's the start of a comprehensive network, but you need to start somewhere. You can't say no to this and then say, let's start expanding in the nether regions. You got to go for the low-hanging fruit and the high-density core.
So the 90% or 99% of that BLAST network will be serviced by buses.
Are you telling me that or asking me that?
I'm asking you aware of that.
Right now, I don't have the actual percentage of what will be buses, but a lot of people are in favor of the high-speed buses. But I think about 8 years ago it was preferable to go with the LRT because of the upkick in development that buses don't bring. And I know that was mentioned about electric buses. Yes, it would reduce pollution, but it's not going to bring economic development like LRT, steel rails in the ground. Developers like that kind of solidity.
So I guess the point I'm making is that we are committed to implementing the BLAST network. And the BLAST network isn't relied on one mode of transit. It's a comprehensive approach to meeting the needs of this community. So the weight of implementing the BLAST network isn't based on whether we have LRT or not. It's based on whether we have those interconnections and those services in place.
Well, you have to interconnect with something, Councillor.
Okay, so right. I'm glad you said that because that leads me right into the next question.
Okay.
The BLAST network is scheduled to go, I can't remember if it's the L line or the T line, across the mountain down to Eastgate. The current configuration of this plan, and when you talk about we voted on this plan many times, this is not the plan we voted on. We voted on McMaster to Eastgate.
Councillor, sir, question?
Yep. So the Eastgate is material to the Well, the question is, do you not believe that Eastgate is material to the success of the LRT?
I was very disappointed when they stopped it at the Queenston traffic circle, but you'd have to ask Councillor Collins about what happened to Eastgate. He didn't want any kind of system, so.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And I think it will come with time. Almost every LRT system in North America that started small has voted to expand it when they see how successful it is. So I'm putting my money on expansion, but we have to start somewhere.
so every transit system, like the one we experienced in recently with Waterloo and Kitchener, they all go from a destination location to destination location. This is one of the exceptions. It's going to a node. It's not going to a destination location.
Yeah, I think the original intent was to go to Eastgate, but for various reasons that was scuppered. But I don't think it's a reason to pack up and go home. I think it's a matter to push forward with the basic line. And the federal government's been talking about transit money. I'd like to see some contribution from the federal government to possibly extend it to Eastgate. I think that would make a lot of sense as a node, because from there you can extend the blast network, and whether it's a high-speed bus, BRT, or some other configuration of LRT, that would help.
And just for clarification, because you mentioned a councillor's name, I want to be clear that whatever decisions are made isn't hijacked by any one councillor. It is an informed decision by this body. So I don't think it's fair to place that onus on one councillor.
Well, he was very much against it, and I've never yet heard cogent reasons why from Councillor Collins or several other councillors. I mean, there's a lot of concerns, but they need to be addressed and not...
Grant, we're going to, we shouldn't be talking about councillors. If you want to speak to your...
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was... well, he discussed the...
Councillor Whitehead as well.
Okay,
we're not going to be discussing councillor. Are there any further questions for Grant?
Is he not here? I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councillor Whitehead, were there any further questions?
Actually, I just wanted to straighten the record, because I don't think it's fair in his absence to be...
I was unaware that he was not in the room, but
thank you.
He can't defend himself.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor, and I'm certainly appreciative of the points that you've brought forward, Grant. I'm wondering, so are you familiar with how we currently fund our transit system with area rating?
To some degree, yes.
So you're aware that some wards only pay for what they receive, which in some cases is nothing, therefore they don't pay anything.
Yeah.
And then they have the ability to vote against transit expansion. So my question through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, to the presenter is, given this talk about Eastgate, would you be in favor of expanding this line using levy dollars? Like actually having the city put skin in the game to expand this line to Eastgate to make it complete, as we've heard from some of these councillors here, on the levy?
I would absolutely be in favor of that. I think it doesn't make sense to stop where it is, but it's a temporary measure, and I think it should be expanded. It really irritates me that one councillor can scupper a whole system, and that happened with the bike lane as well. So
we really are not going to be going down that road. So
well, if it's an 8-7 vote, then the deciding vote could potentially scupper a project. So,
Councillor, please.
You didn't name anybody.
There was a name mentioned. Let's just steer from that. Okay. If you want to ask about tax implications or whatever, that's fine.
Okay. No, I'm happy with what's.
I would be in favor of it being extended.
Yeah. I'm just hearing a lot of that, Madam Deputy Mayor, talk about Eastgate, and yet I haven't yet heard anybody put the motion to say we'll do what Kitchener did with their leadership, put our own money in the game, and while we're at it, revisit area rating and look at having a full city paying for one full city system.
I think that because Kitchener's paying a third of theirs, I could see us putting some money into it. This makes sense to make because people say it goes to nowhere, which I think is possibly insulting to people who live at Queenston, but it would make a lot more sense to go to Eastgate.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Farr.
Grant, thanks for coming in. It was good to see you with your big toast poster at the rally with some 400 people in the rain on the holiday weekend, and certainly you've made your opinions known, not just over the holiday weekend, and it's much appreciated. And I also know you to be a resident of Ward 1, I believe,
That's correct.
But a teacher here in Ward 2 who is often very actively engaged with the students, particularly on multimodal transportation, on cycling especially, and those sorts of things. So I'm wondering if you could share through you, Chair, and I know you're not an official spokesman for the board, but we also know the boards are on board just like anybody else, Hale, DeFasco, whomever. We've heard from a lot today, the unions, the laborers. It's just an incredibly large list, and it continues to be heard and grow. And certainly you don't represent them, but can you at least share with us what you hear firsthand from your students? And I won't mention your school because I'm not sure if you did off the top. Through you, Chair.
I teach grade 6, so it would be different if I was in the secondary panel. I'm sure that there'd be a lot of discussion about the utility of having a better, faster, more comfortable transit system with updated wait times for the next vehicle, etc. And I know I talked to my nephews in high school and traveling around Toronto, and that he uses the subway an awful lot, and he's in love with it. When I worked in Toronto, I used the subway and streetcar quite a bit, and yeah, I think that at elementary level, I'm promoting sustainable transportation through walking and cycling, taking advantage of the subsidized bike rack program offered by the city. Thank you. And also having my students trained by New Hope Community Bikes. They come in and do bicycle safety training, and Mark Chamberlain, through the Bike for Mike program, our school has benefited with 150 brand new bikes a year and a half ago, helmets, locks, training. So it's not enough just to put in bike racks. I've been trying to promote this throughout the board. You need to do more than put in a bike rack. It needs to be a comprehensive program where you identify safe streets, and bicycle safety training should be part of the phys ed curriculum. They have the Swim to Survive program in grade 3. Why not a Cycle to Survive program in grade 3 or 4?
Excellent. Well, you're doing a very good job, and I hope you continue to do it. If you're 60, I don't know how much longer you got, but
cycling on road.
In terms of your career at the school.
Actually, I'm retiring this June 30th, and there's a big celebration next day. It's something about Canada Day, so I don't know.
That's what I meant to
Would you
say.
like to rephrase
You're certainly fit enough to go a long, long way on the other thing. So thank you very much, and hopefully there's another Grant Ranalli following in your footsteps there in the North End. Really appreciate it.
I don't have any progeny, sir. I'll just make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you. Are there any further questions? Seeing none. Our next